Praise Yahweh, grandmother. Can you tell me a Bible story?
Praise Yahweh. This is the story of how Yahweh brought us out of Egypt. This is the story of the Exodus. Once upon a time in Egypt, Jacob, our forefather, and his family came to live in the land during a great famine. Over many years, Jacob's family grew into a great people called the Israelites. They were blessed by Yahweh, and their families became many. The Israelites were dark-skinned people, strong and full of life, and Yahweh was with them. But after a long time, a new king rose up in Egypt who did not remember Joseph or the good the Israelites had done. This king, called Pharaoh, became afraid of how many Israelites there were, so he treated them cruelly and made them slaves. The Israelites worked hard under the hot sun, building cities and carrying heavy loads. They cried out to Yahweh for help, and Yahweh heard them. Now Yahweh chose a man named Moses to lead his people. Moses was a black man, born an Israelite, and Yahweh spoke to him with great power. Yahweh said he would bring his people out of Egypt with mighty acts so all would know his name. Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, let my people go." But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he refused. So Yahweh began to send plagues upon Egypt.
What's a plague, grandmother?
A plague is a big problem that happens so people will listen and learn. The first plague came when Yahweh turned the water of the Nile River into blood. Moses stretched out his hand, and the river, the streams, and the ponds became blood. The fish died, and the land smelled terrible. The people could not drink the water. Just as it is written, all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood, but Pharaoh would not listen. Then Yahweh sent the second plague. Frogs came up from the river and covered the land. Frogs were in the houses, in the beds, and even in the kitchens. Imagine opening your eyes and seeing frogs everywhere. Pharaoh begged Moses to ask Yahweh to take them away. But when the frogs were gone, Pharaoh hardened his heart again. Next came the third plague. Yahweh turned the dust of the ground into gnats. The tiny insects covered people and animals alike. Even Pharaoh's magicians said, "This is the finger of God," yet Pharaoh still refused. The fourth plague followed. Swarms of flies filled the houses of Egypt, but not the homes of the Israelites. Yahweh made a clear difference between his people and the Egyptians. Pharaoh promised to let the Israelites go, but once again he broke his word. Then Yahweh sent the fifth plague. A terrible sickness came upon the livestock of Egypt. Horses, cattle, and sheep died, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites was harmed. Pharaoh saw this, but his heart remained stubborn. The sixth plague came as painful boils. Moses threw ashes into the air, and boils broke out on the skin of the Egyptians. They were covered in sores and could not even stand. Still, Pharaoh would not humble himself before Yahweh. After this, Yahweh sent the seventh plague. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and hail fell from the sky, crushing plants and trees. Fire ran along the ground with the hail. It was unlike anything Egypt had ever seen. Yahweh sent thunder and hail, and fire ran along the ground. Yet Pharaoh sinned again and refused to let the Israelites go. Then came the eighth plague. Locusts covered the land and ate everything left after the hail. The fields were stripped bare. Egypt was left in ruin, but Pharaoh's heart was still hard. The ninth plague was thick darkness. For 3 days, Egypt was covered in darkness so deep it could be felt. People could not see one another or move, but the Israelites had light in their homes. Imagine being surrounded by darkness while knowing Yahweh was protecting his people. Finally, Yahweh sent the 10th and most terrible plague. Yahweh said that at midnight the firstborn son of every Egyptian household would die, from the palace of Pharaoh to the poorest home. But Yahweh gave the Israelites instructions to protect their families. They were to place lamb's blood on their doorposts. Yahweh said, "When I see the blood, I will pass over you. That night there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house without death. Pharaoh's own firstborn son died, and Pharaoh finally broke. Pharaoh called for Moses in the night and said, "Rise, go out from among my people." The Israelites left Egypt in a hurry. Just as Yahweh promised, they were free. Yahweh led them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. When Pharaoh changed his mind and chased them, Yahweh opened the Red Sea, and the Israelites walked through on dry ground. Yahweh saved his people with great power, showing that he keeps his promises. And that is how Yahweh brought the Israelites out of Egypt, strong, protected, and chosen. Praise Yahweh.